There are 3 million jobs in America today that are open for hire and have been for more than a month. This has never happened before coming out of a recession. There are 2 reasons. One of them we can't do anything about right now, but we will be able to, and we must next year. And that is that more than 10 million of our fellow Americans are living in homes worth less than their mortgages. So they can't move, otherwise their credit's toast for a decade. So we don't have the labor mobility we used to have. But the bigger problem is that people are advertising for jobs and hundreds of people are applying, but they're not trained to do those jobs. Now, if you make him the governor, he will immediately know what to do about that. You take your federal training money and whatever the state cuts in, and you offer it to the employers or to a union training program or to a community college, and you say, train for these jobs, then poof, we can get rid of those 3 million vacancies in 2 months, and the unemployment rate would drop 2%. Except, the Republican budget, actually there are 2 Republican budgets, but both of them call for across-the-board cuts of 25% in all domestic spending except Medicare, which they want to increase because they want to privatize Medicare and give it to the health insurance companies. A really bad idea. Now, if you cut education and training 25% at the federal level, what is going to happen? You're not going to fill the 3 million jobs, and you're going to impose intolerable burdens on the school districts of Connecticut and intolerable pressures to raise property taxes at the very time you are trying to create a competitive economic system to get more of the kind of jobs that Dan Malloy got into Stanford. This is not complicated, but people are acting like it's not happening. The second thing is, and this is something that ought to change the course of this election. I want every student here to listen to me. Most jobs in the 21st century will not require a college degree, but most of them will be created by someone who has one. In this last decade, for the first time in my lifetime, the United States fell from first to ninth in the percentage of our adults with 4-year degrees. We fell to 12th in the percentage of our young adults with 4-year degrees. But guess what? We're still first in the percentage of our young people who are going to college. What happened? We had massive dropouts because families were in trouble. You know what happened to families in the last few years. Kids were worried their parents were losing their jobs. They might lose their home. They said, I just can't take out any more loans. I won't be able to service the debt. I have to quit. It became crushing. And the Pell Grants and other stuff did not keep up. Until the new Congress gave a big increase in Pell Grants. But look, and here's what happened. Nobody knows it. The Congress passed and the President signed the biggest improvement in the student loan program since the GI Bill. And here's how it works. And I want all of you to listen. This is really important. The bill took $60 billion over a decade in subsidies to banks to make these loans and removed the subsidy and said make the loans or not if you want. But we're going to have the government provide the money direct to the University of Hartford and the other schools here. And we'll set aside a loan reserve in the event of default. First thing that happens is the loans go down in cost. When I did this on an optional basis as president, the average student saved $1,300 on every $10,000 they had to repay. It's a lot of money. Wait. Second, the bill takes the $60 billion they save and sets aside $40 billion to make sure that the Pell Grants and the work-study funds and the tax deductions for tuition keep up with inflation for a decade, and took the other $20 billion and dedicated to paying down the national debt. And finally, and by far the most important, this bill says that from now on, every single solitary student in America with a student loan will be able to pay that loan back as a small fixed percent of their income for up to 20 years, never more than 10% if you become a teacher, a nurse, a police officer, less. You understand what this means? No American will ever have to drop out of college again because they're afraid they cannot afford a loan. cheering because you did not know that till I just told you, did you? It is the law of the land. Second point is, the Republicans have said if they get to Congress, they intend to repeal the law. Now, they're not running ads saying, vote for us. We want to make college more expensive. We want to make the loans harder to repay. We want to add $20 billion to the national debt. And we don't give a rip if America falls from 12th to 20th to 30th and we compromise our whole future in the 21st century. No, but the people that are paying for all those anonymous ads running all over America want their $60 billion back, and they chose them over your future. What is the importance of that? All these polling models assume that 25% fewer people will vote in the election than voted in the presidential election. Fair enough. But they assume a 40% drop in the African American vote, a 35% drop in the Latino vote, and a 55% drop in the votes of people 25 and under. I believe if every student at this school and every student across Connecticut knew what was in the student loan reform and knew they had promised to repeal it, there would be a greater youth vote than the overall vote, and all these elections would come out dramatically differently. Therefore, you want to make sure that Blumenthal wins. You want to make sure that people you like for Congress win. You want to make sure that Dan Malloy is the next governor of Connecticut. Tomorrow, get on Facebook, get on YouTube, get on Twitter. Go up in every public facility in this school and put something up on the bulletin board and say, here's what's in the student loan bill. This is the law of the land. You will never have to drop out of school again unless they get to Congress and repeal it because they'd rather give the money back to the interest groups. This is a huge, huge deal. You can influence the outcome of the election. It's on you now. You can do it for free. Will you do that? Will you help us? I read a touching article yesterday about these two ladies that started the Tea Party movement. It was really touching. They were nice women who were horrified by the bailout, weren't we all? Right? I mean, we do this bailout, and we help the banks that caused the collapse, which burned all the other banks, the community that had nothing to do with it, and creamed the economy so it hurt all of you. Then all of a sudden they're back happy and in good shape, and everybody else is still hurting. Everybody hates it. The reason it was done was not for them. It was done because if you lose one part of your credit system, the whole thing collapsed. Biggest car dealer in America couldn't finance new cars. We were almost at a part where people couldn't buy a refrigerator or an installment plan. That's why it was done. But it should never be done again. Here's something else. Nobody knows. The Congress passed a bill which says these big banks on Wall Street have to start behaving more like community banks. So we are going to every month monitor how much risk they're taking. We're not going to let anybody get up and put $34 in risk for every dollar they got in the bank anymore. If they start to get out of hand, we're going to make them set more cash aside so this can't happen. So number one, it's much less likely we'll ever have a crash like this again. Number two, there is a separate provision of this law that nobody knows that says if they do it now, we're giving them notice, there will be no bailout, and the stockholders and the executives have to eat the law. The Congress has banned bailouts. The Republicans are running against bailouts, saying they're going to ban them. In fact, they have promised to repeal this law, which makes further crashes more likely and further bailouts almost certain. You've got a clear choice. You can't make me believe that a lot of independent voters, if they knew that one fact, wouldn't come in to vote for Richard Blumenthal, Dan Malloy, and a lot of other people that are on the side of ordinary Americans in this fight for the future. I keep hearing that a lot of independent voters are saying, I don't really agree with the Republicans, but I got to vote for them because otherwise there'll be no cooperation. Senator McConnell, the head of the Republicans in the Senate, says that the biggest mistake he made when we worked together was they started cooperating with me too soon. And his goal is not to cooperate with the president, but to make sure he's a one-termer. That's more important than passing anything. better think about that. Now look, here's the deal on this balanced budget. I hate deficits. You know I do, don't you? Because I gave you the only surpluses you've had. Well, you know what I like. But this stimulus bill was necessary because unlike when I became president, and the problem was the debt of the country had been quadrupled in the previous 12 years, and interest rates were high, and people couldn't get loans to go in business. This time, interest rates were zero because nothing was happening. We had to stop digging the hole. 36% of that stimulus went to what the Tea Party says they want. Tax cuts for 95% of American families. 110 million families got tax cuts. Now, the other side acts like it didn't happen because I didn't get one. And their number one priority is to make sure, I love saying this, I never had a nickel till I got in the White House. Their number one priority is to make sure that millionaires get tax cuts. That's not good economics now. Because if you already got more money than you need, you can't possibly spend it if they give you more. We need it spent. We need to give it to small business, to manufacturing, to green energy, to people who go to college, to train for specific jobs. That will create jobs. Then some of the stimulus, I asked Dan before I came in here, went to Connecticut so you wouldn't have to lay off teachers and nurses, firemen, and police officers. In other words, it wasn't trying to get us out of the hole, it was just trying to help you swim so you didn't drown in the hole. Only about a third of that stimulus bill, $270 billion, went to new jobs. Less than, keep in mind what I told you, the hole was $3 trillion deep. There's no way we're ever going to get out of the hole. But it did create more jobs than all the experts predicted, and I saw just one more neutral, nonpartisan report just 2 weeks ago said if it hadn't been for that stimulus, unemployment would be 2 points higher than it is today all across America.